everyone, this is Star Zenith 33 Laura Francesca here at Podbean. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. I'm going to be talking about the solar eclipse in Leo, which everybody is talking about. It's the greatest thing to talk about right now because it impacts globally. Okay, so it's not just in the United States, it's globally around the world. And it's going to be grandiose and impactful and mysterious and fearful, I do have to say. Okay, so join me in there as I talk more about this in full detail, my perspective of what I feel that this eclipse is going to entail in our lives and how to move with it. Okay, so join me there. Thank you for returning and listening to the podcast here. I haven't talked for about 4 days, okay? And I've been trying to, just heal my throat because it got a little bit, jammed in there. So I was able to, the last podcast I did it 4 days ago, and then I got super busy, oh my gosh, doing six house type of stuff like in my house, and I got some pretty interesting toys. A washer and dryer, by the way. And this really cool dryer, I'll talk about that in another podcast, but because this is more about the eclipse. But that's where I've been for the past, 4 days. And I just been so exhausted because I've been doing a lot of just home goods kind of stuff, and excited to open this package and open it up and try this and that, and a lot of house things that I've been doing, things within the home. And I just did not have any time to podcast. So, and I'm podcasting right now because there's an eclipse that's coming. If it wasn't for the eclipse, I probably would not be podcasting right now because I probably would be getting a little bit of rest because it's been nonstop. Okay, non-stop in my home. So, but it's already, it's minimizing now. Okay, and so just a lot of things going on there with the house there, but it's good stuff. Okay, and so anyway, so let's jump in here with the eclipse here that's going on. It's such a fascinating eclipse, I do have to say. We know an eclipse has to do with endings, okay, and revelations also that happen. So within the first days of the eclipse, things are going to be coming out. And unfortunately, I do have to say there might be some people passing away as well, because 20 degrees has to do with Scorpio. And we know Scorpio has to do with death, right? It's like when you think of the owls, right? They say when an owl appears to you, then that means that, or when it howls at you, or it hoots at you, most likely somebody's going to pass away. And so they can be a little bit scary in that, because you don't want people passing away and so forth. But that is life. When you have to transition and you go to the other side. It happens, it's life, and we just have to make the best out of it and remain positive and, be close to God and so forth. It's a good day tonight to pray to God, wake up early in the morning and pray as well, because this is a great, great transition that's going to happen. Okay. And it's starting off at the 20 degree. So let's jump into the Siberian symbol of what that 20 degree means. Okay. We know in astrology it has to do with Scorpio. So that could bring fear. There could bring mystery, the unknown, right? And so also wealth, I do have to say. Okay. And there could be wealth coming in, people transitioning and having new opportunities for new jobs. Maybe moving to another job, another location, something to do with employment. It has to do with money. Maybe you get a opportunity to make more money, Um, ooh, hang on one sec. Okay. I don't know why I was not sneezing before. I don't know why I'm sneezing now. I sneezed like twice. So anyway, God bless me. So anyway, let's jump into the Sabian symbol here, um, and what it means. Okay, so the Sabian symbol for the 20th degree of Leo, okay, is the Zuni sun worshippers. Okay, and when I was reading, I was preparing for the podcast, and I was reading on the Sabian symbol. And as I was reading the Sabian symbol, like in my third eye, I seen a vision of Indians, like these Aztec Indians, and they were blowing off like a coral, those shells, those coral shells, and they were blowing on that coral shelf, and then like incense was coming out, and they were dancing, right? And that's what I seen in my third eye, and I was like, wow, this is going to be very, very spiritual. And but before I get ahead of myself, let's talk about the Sabian symbol here, okay? Because this is what it's telling me, like, it's telling us, you know. But when I was trying to, you know, understand it, I'm hearing the word entertainment, something about entertainment, um, or something. You're saying I'm hearing something about you're entertaining. Well, I would hope so. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I think I don't know. Sometimes I could be very like a lot of people perceive me to be very like a teacher, and other people might see me entertaining as well. You know, so I don't know. So what it's talking about is the Zuni sun worshippers. Okay, so its core keyword is the return to natural and life-giving energies. Okay, and the what is it? The key word here is fidelity. Okay, there's something about loyalty, something about fidelity. And the meaning and the themes here is ritual and community. So this degree highlights the human need for shared ceremonies, traditions, and spiritual rhythms that bring people together. The connection to nature. It encourages stepping away from rigid mental structures to honor natural elements, life cycles, and intuition. Reverence. The symbol represents aligning personal vitality with a larger, timeless source of energy and respecting ancestral or traditional wisdom. So, a lot of ancestry and ancestral energies are going to come through, especially if you have ancestors that were Aztecs, especially in Mexico. I think this is going to be huge. I even posted on Facebook that I think this is going to be huge for Mexico. I feel that in Mexico, because they have a lot of pyramids, a lot of history in Mexico. I do feel that there might be this return of like Aztec Indians. I'm not saying that they're physically going to return. What I'm saying is the frequency of like these Indians, Aztec Indians that passed away many, many years. Um, they might come back out. I would even be surprised if like, they used to sacrifice children on those pyramids. I would not be surprised if the children return. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because Mars just entered Cancer. Okay. It was in Gemini for a whole long time. Thank God it left. Oh my gosh. It was ridiculous. Gemini can be like a fun sign and everything, but on the dark shadow of Gemini, it can be very sloppy when it comes to communication. It can be very gossipy, very chatty, very gossipy, and very blunt, and says things that it doesn't even think what it's saying. And it could be very rude as well, very obnoxious, like it doesn't have manners. And just like very cutthroating, you know what I mean? Like in your face. Like, and I understand because, everybody has Gemini. I have Gemini, but I have it in Saturn. Okay. So my Gemini in Saturn is more elevated, you know. It's more structured. It's more about boundaries, you know. And it's more mature, you know. Um so I would be like the mature Gemini, that is taking care of everybody else, making sure that somebody doesn't fuck up, that kind of thing, and it's like, don't make me look bad, okay, and while these other younger Geminis, like they just, but I'm trying not to be too like that, you know what I mean? Because life is about fun, life is about enjoying yourself and so forth, Um, but with Mars, it was very rude, it was very just wanting to compete and wanting to fight and wanting, it just, and I had to distance myself from people like that. I was like, oh, I can't be around that energy, so I'm just glad it left, because the communication was not well. The communication was very competitive, because that's what happens when Mars is in Gemini. It is also about ideas and coming up with ideas and strategy. And I love that about Mars in Gemini, but it can become very immature and very competitive, and doing things behind the scenes and stuff like that. And I know I don't like it. But I'm so glad that Mars entered. Well, not really so glad, because in Cancer it's in its fall. So I'm going to be talking this in another podcast, because this is more about the eclipse. But I just want to give you guys a heads up why I'm thinking that maybe these babies that were sacrificed in these pyramids are probably coming back in their spirit, okay, in Mexico, like near the pyramids and so forth. I do feel that because this 20 degrees has to do with death, and it has to do with the death, the people that have passed away. And it's coming back, and it's going to be visible. There's going to be, or you could feel the frequency, and it could be children, because like I said, Mars just entered Cancer. Cancer has to do with children, okay? And now that it's in Cancer, it has to do with families, it has to do with children, um, and there's going to be a lot of topics around children, okay? So this solar eclipse in Leo is happening while Mars is in Cancer, okay? And so, Leo and Cancer, they both rule children. So there could be something pertaining to children. So a lot of, also I feel a lot of parents are going to be more protective of their children. They are they rules real estate as well, and so forth. And so there's going to be a lot of topics with that, okay? And that's in another podcast. I'll talk more on the astro weather there. But what's happening here is, with this Siberian symbol of 20, also let's talk about the cautious and the shadows of it, okay? It could be ego and dogma, is falling into narrow, rigid perspectives, or getting lost in empty ritualism rather than true spiritual refreshment. Loss of identity, blindly copying traditions without understanding their deeper meaning, or losing oneself in a crowd mentally. Um, and what it's talking about here is, people that do rituals and they don't understand it. And so I suggest, before you go out and do a ritual or something, understand what is it that you're doing, because there could be karmic consequences to that. Okay, so it cautious the dark shadow of not understanding a ritual and just going along with it, right? Because maybe it looks fun or something like that. But understanding, that it's very sacred, okay, when you do rituals. It's very sacred, and it's good for you to. I mean, you don't have to go, like do like deep rituals. You know what I mean? They could be so minor ones, like I seen this one video where they put salt, and they put their bare feet on top of the salt, and it clears up the bottom of the feet, and that's something simple. But we're talking about like, you know, more deeper rituals and stuff that might fall like more darker, rituals, I would caution against those. But something simple like salt, or, I put olive oil under my feet as well. I put EVOO. Especially the more authentic it is, the better. Because, olive oil, it's a blessed oil, and, everything happens from the bottom of your feet. Okay, from the bottom, whatever you put in the bottom of your feet, it goes all the way up to your brain. And so it's I put olive oil sometimes, or just oils like, that smell really good and so forth, and then put my socks on and make them soft and so forth. But it really, helps with your self-esteem. It really helps with um, just feeling better about yourself, or smelling good, or whatever it is, for spiritual practices as well, you know. So this is what the 20 degree means, okay? It has to do with sun worshipers, okay? And Leo rules the sun, okay? And it is a 1 year this year, okay, ruling the sun. So this is going to be a very, very important, um, this is going to be a very important eclipse here, okay? Another interpretation that I had seen something here is that this is a symbol of man's recognition of higher and natural forces from which he receives his life and strength, emphasized here in his everyday life of his loyalties, and in his self buttressing through a preservation of older values in an evolution of new ones. Okay. Um, so this is what's going on here, and right here, what the motto is: I am the path and the task. Leo 20 degrees, right? And then it has a picture of these Mayan, like this ceramic with Mayans on there, Mayan Aztecs, and it says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So this is interesting. I don't know, maybe the eclipse is going to be taking the burdens off. Maybe if you're a hard worker and you work too hard, it's coming to eclipse all the hard work. And now, in astrology, we have Aquarius that just entered the North Node, and it's also in Pluto. So it's making our work easier through AI, through just anything in technology, right? For an example, for me, I've been pretty busy the past 48 hours, and I purchased a washer and dryer, and I just been on it like just practically all day, just washing. There was I have clean clothes, but there was a lot of things that I needed to wash, like curtains and sheets and all of that. And I even had some curtains in our kitchen that I hadn't washed for, oh my God, it's I think a year or something. But they didn't look dirty or nothing. And they're the type of curtains that they never look dirty. And so I never really thought about washing them. And I just said, what else can I wash? I want to wash everything. And so that's just been my priority of a lot of household, doing a lot of things in the house. Okay. As a Pisces, we have Uranus and Gemini in the fourth house of real estate, of our home, of our ancestors. So we're fixing up our house. We are adding technology to it because it is making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So we're investing in technology, okay, to ease our situation at home and so forth. And so, that's one thing that I'm doing. Not only do I use AI for things that I might need, or things that can be faster, or getting information that's faster and so forth. But of course, I do research it. I don't take it at face value. Because sometimes it could be a little wrong, or a lot wrong, but mostly it's been pretty accurate. ChatGPT has been pretty accurate with some of the things that I've asked. We just, we have this thing going on, me and ChatGPT. We have a relationship going on. No, just kidding. But it has helped me solve a lot of the things that I have questions on, and so Yeah. So anyway, the this is the Leo 20 degree. Okay. That is just talking about when where it says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I feel our burdens are going to be light now. And there's something that's being eclipsed. Okay, that has made your life difficult. Could be a Leo, or not always a Leo. Okay, it could be an actor. It could be somebody that has been very unfair with you. Okay, and and he or she is gonna be taken out of your life. You know, um, it could be something like that. If not, it could just be um, a child, child rule Leo. I don't know. It just, your burden is going to be just lighter, and it's not that it's going to be a child's going to be taken away. Okay. I don't want to put that fear in there because the 20 degree already rules fear. Okay. Um, it could just be, something more simpler, that can ease your life, whether it's a child, whether it depends where you have Leo. For me, I have it in the fourth house, which is my home. So for me, technology, because Pluto is getting along very well um, with Uranus, that's just an example. And for Pisces, Uranus is in the fourth house of real estate. So I've been investing in technology, right? Which is easing my life way, way, way a lot. Like a lot of the burdens, they have been going away. But also in Leo, I also have it in the fourth house that has to do with the home, right? Um, so, you know, um, I'm having like less responsibilities, but I've been really busy, but um, I've been able to like go really hard, like right away with what I have to do, and then, be up to date. And now it's like, okay, now I can go and podcast, now I can do what I needed to do. So I hope you guys understand a little bit what I'm trying to say with that. Um, Now let's jump into the chart, which is very important. The sun here at 20 degrees in Leo, it is in the 11th, it's starting in the 11th house of community. Okay. So this is very important because the 11th house of community has to do with we participate. That is the motto. Okay. It has to do with humanitarian, with charities. It has to do with circles and friends and clubs and organization, relating to your career or social standing. 11th house has to do also with social media. It has to do with anywhere where you're creative and where you form part of a group, where you can gain awareness of unity. It's these people, that they're in a community and they have meetings and they go to these meetings and they talk about what's going on in the community and so forth. I know here in the town where I live in San Pedro, they do have these community meetings, or they will have, what is it? What is it? The community watch or something like that, there could be some groups. Also 11th house rules also politics, okay, because it pertains to groups and so forth in circles. So there we might be hearing a whole lot more on politics there going on. um, I'm not trying to, get into the whole news and things that are happening, but Donald Trump was talking about he was talking about like some vaccinations for children, and it's not a law, okay. I think it was an executive order that they wanted to do or something like that, and he mentioned about it that parents need to just, be wise about, before getting your children vaccinated. And so that's good that he said that, right? Because a lot of, parents think that, they're just going to take their kids to like a clinic and they're going to just hand over the child to the doctor so the child can be vaccinated. But, I guess Donald Trump is just saying be smart about your decisions. You don't have to do that all the time. And so it was a little bit shocking of what he said. Very Uranus and Gemini. Mm. But, that can pertain to, the sun in Leo, that something's being exposed. um, at 20 degrees of Scorpio. Okay, because 20 degrees of Scorpio, it could also mean death. And so he is a Leo rising. Okay, and Mars just entered Cancer, so it has to do with children as well. So this eclipse is happening while Mars just entered Cancer, and it has to do with children and and so forth. And so a lot of parents are going to be more responsible, are going to be more protective over their children. We're going to start seeing a lot of that, where I don't think it's going to be as easy for parents to just give the child to the doctor, you know what I mean, to get vaccinated or whatever it is that they're asking for, right? Because I think parents, especially mothers, are going to be more protective, because Cancer rules by the moon. It rules the mother. Okay. And hopefully you make wise decisions, and this is why I do the astro weather, right? To talk about the frequencies that are going on and so forth. And it's very, very important that people do listen to the astro weather, because I talk about these frequencies and what's going on. And if you do get your child vaccinated, something could happen, and then lawsuits come in. And these clinics, they want to avoid lawsuits and so forth. So it could get really messy. Okay. And I'll talk more about that in the astro weather, because this is more about the eclipse. So the sun in Leo is going to be in the 11th house of circles and groups. Okay. Also is open enemies. Okay. So do expect that you might have some open enemies as well, that can pop up here and there. But an eclipse has to do with releasing and letting go. Okay. Of having to just let go. Or it will do it for you. That's what an eclipse is. And revelations are going to start happening within a couple days. So after the eclipse, there's going to be revelations, and it's things that are just going to be revealed, where it has to do with Leo. It might be children, it might be leaders, and something that's been hidden, okay, at the 20 degree, and is finally gonna, is gonna show up. Um, I'm showing that is coming together with Fama. Okay, so this asteroid of Fama has to do with being famous. So there could be a transition with your job. There could be a transition with opportunities. Maybe you come into an opportunity to become famous. Okay. So I like that Fama is next to the sun, because it tells me that this new beginning that is happening has to do with being famous. Okay. And it's at the 14 degree of banks, 14 degrees of loans and banks and mortgages and real estate. Okay. So you could be getting famous with real estate. If you're in real estate, you're entering real estate or some forth, is really a great time to do like videos or invest in AI. Um, you could do faceless accounts now. You don't have to be showing yourself or nothing like that. You just use AI. And but there could be some brand new something happening with real estate. Okay. And so that's a good thing there, especially because this Fama, this asteroid of Fama, is coming together with Jupiter, okay, in Leo. So there's this big cluster of Leo, okay. We have Mercury in Leo, we got Jupiter in Leo, we got Fama in Leo, we got the Sun in Leo, we got the Moon in Leo. So there is a lot of Leo going on, okay. And so this asteroid of fame, Fama, is coming together with Jupiter, which is luck and expansion, right? And it's at 9 degrees of countries. So it could be something internationally. Maybe you become known internationally in the sign of Leo, okay? And then Jupiter is coming together with Mercury, with communication at 5 degrees of entertainment. Maybe that's why I heard the download of entertainment, when I was starting the podcast. And 5 degrees, it has to do with music and film, and it has to do with being seen and so forth. And the communication there, it could be you're a podcaster like I am, and you're being the communication you do is maybe you're becoming a little bit more entertaining, or people enjoy hearing you or watching you and so forth, especially as it comes together with Jupiter. That's huge. Jupiter and Mercury coming together, that's like kaboom, and then Fama right sandwich right in between it, so it seems very great aspects happening here in the sign of Leo. Okay. Um, Let me look at here because I do have to say that the sun um, is trining Saturn. Okay. So it's getting along very well with Saturn, which has to do with rules and restrictions and delays and so forth. It also rules billionaires. It rules the elders. It rules, more older people in your life. It could be your mother. It could be your father. It could be a billionaire, an uncle, a grandfather, anybody like that, a husband. And it's getting along very, very well. It's interesting because, like I mentioned, in Mexico, I feel it's going to be really huge. This eclipse, even though the eclipse is not going to pass through Mexico, but there's a lot of history in Mexico with the Aztecs and the sun and the pyramids and so forth. And, because of 20 degrees of Scorpio, Mexico is very Scorpio. Okay. Um, it was founded, Mexico City was founded on the year of the snake. So it's about transformation and so forth. The flag of Mexico has uh, it has a eagle with a snake on it. Okay. So I feel because it's trining Saturn, there might be something to do with tradition because, Saturn also rules history. Okay. It rules history. And we're talking about historical like art, craft, and so forth. And because the sun is getting along with Saturn of history, in these historical places, not just Mexico, it might be in other parts of the world where there's a lot of history. Okay, that's going to shine a lot of revelation there. Okay, this is why I do feel that there might be some spirits in Mexico that might pop up, that all of a sudden you start feeling maybe Mexico is going to start feeling a little bit more spiritual. Like it's already spiritual, but way more, And especially if you're doing rituals in Mexico, which they do rituals down there. Um, or they just like to admire what is that pyramid, the Chichen Itza or something. It's one of those big pyramids, those famous pyramids. Um, I don't think you're allowed to climb, but you were able to climb before. And I read something that they're not allowed to climb anymore. So I guess they made these new rules there. But there is a lot of frequency in those pyramids. So the sun is getting along very well with Saturn. Okay, this new beginning that is happening. It could also rule protection. Okay, Saturn rules protection. It also rules the police. Okay, so you could probably be, if you're maybe an influencer, especially right now that females need to be protected. And I'm going to be talking about that in the astro weather. There's a lot of going on there where women do need to be protecting themselves right now. It's not to, put any fear out there, nothing like that, but do be aware right now, some of the times right now for women to be alone is not good. Okay. And I want to share a little stories because this is not just the eclipse, but also sharing storytelling. A couple of days ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. Um, I I was running errands, of course, like always, and I went to go. I was a little bit hungry, so I hadn't ate all day, and I said, "Let me grab me some tacos, right? Some Mexican tacos." And there was this one taco truck that it's so good, and um, is one of the most cleanest trucks that I think there. And then I think influencers have done videos on it. It's a little bit famous, and So I went to go eat me some tacos, and the lady was so nice. She's always nice to me and stuff. And she gave me my tacos, and then I sat in the table, and it's right outside and stuff. It has a tent and everything though. And there was a guy that he was not mentally well. I could tell because he kept like talking to himself. Um, and he was in a bus stop right across the street from where I was eating. And he looked at me, and sometimes you're eating and you just look outside. I don't know, that's how I eat. When I eat tacos, I mean, they're like, I'm enjoying them, right? And then I just happen to like look across the street because there's nothing else to look. I mean, there's no art around or nothing. Like, what do you look at, right? So I looked across the street, and the guy looked at me. Or he was a man. He was like a man. He was not mentally there. And, he grabbed like his fingers from his hand, and he touched his neck like as if he was, you know, slashing his neck. And I was like, okay, that was odd, but it was scary and creepy at the same time. And I don't know if he was telling me that he wanted to slash my neck. And, but of course, he was mentally ill. And I said, okay, Laura, hurry up with the tacos and jump on a line bike and get out of there. And I don't know, for me, I was thinking to myself when I was leaving, I was like, why did he do that? You know? And it just, I guess my thought was like maybe he didn't have money to eat. And these are these two classes that there's going to be those that have money to, purchase food, and there's going to be the other class that does not have money to purchase food, you know. And so what do? A lot of them probably will take revenge. A lot of them will try to um, kill for food. They will do anything to survive. So I feel that there's this responsibility, within communities of how do you take care of these people that maybe don't have food to eat, because it's not my fault that I was hungry, but I didn't realize. I sometimes I don't even look who's looking at me. And but the fact that he was looking at me from far, from afar, but not really that far either. And you know because I guess I was really hungry. I don't know if maybe the tacos look really good or something. I honestly, if he wasn't mentally ill, I honestly would have purchased some tacos, and I would have went to him. But that's not a safe thing to do, especially with the astrology with females. This is why I say. But I would have bought him some tacos and would have took him some tacos. You know what I mean? Um, because I'm not selfish where I'm just eating tacos. I feel bad. Like if I'm eating tacos and they're not eating, like maybe they can't afford them. But this is where we're at. Okay. This is where we are right now, and this is why Pluto and Aquarius is transiting, because it's about helping people, helping humanity. But I feel these towns, these communities need to be responsible for the people that are mentally ill. Because I mean that was something serious. Because if what if he would have approached me where I was eating and would have did something? There was no cops around. There was people around, but I don't know. I just kind of think about stuff like that. Something like that could have happened. But thank God that did not happen. I didn't even finish the tacos. Like I was just like, I just got to get out of here. And that's what I did, and thank God I went home real quick. But it was a weird, for me, I feel like very unsafe as a female. And then I noticed the astrology, because Venus is in Libra and is being opposed by Saturn and Neptune, and something to do with the past with Saturn retrograde. So there's more to that. Okay, there's more transits and all of that. But I know personally that females are not safe. And then also I did hear a download a couple days ago as well about like femicide. But I know there's no femicide here in the United States. In Mexico there is, but not here in the United States. But it doesn't have to be a label. right? There are still females that are getting abused. There are still females, like females out in the streets, that are maybe on drugs, or they have a boyfriend that's a druggie or something, There, just because femicide is not trending in the United States doesn't mean it's not happening, you know. And in Mexico, it happens. It's normal in Mexico. That's just what happens. A lot of abuse. But in the United States, it's happening as well. It's just being low key. You don't know about it. So females need to be protecting themselves. Okay, not saying yes all the time to everything. Um, and so that's some of the things that can happen. Okay, so you just need to watch your back and watch where you are and so forth. It is a great time to do have a VPN. I have a VPN which protects me of the location where I'm at and so forth. So anyway, enough of that. That was just a story I wanted to share. And the importance that we need to, as females, we need to protect ourselves, especially because Mars just entered Cancer. Okay, and Cancer has to do with females, ruled by the moon. Okay, so there might be some arguments when it comes to females. Maybe if you're in a partnership, there might be. Um, Also, Mars in Cancer has to do with car accidents. There's going to be more car accidents as well. And so we really need to, it's in its fall position there, so it's not the greatest. Okay. Where it does do well, Mars there is in Capricorn. It's exalted. Okay. So it loves Capricorn in there, but it does not like Cancer in there. And with Cancer, you might drive too fast and you might lose control of the wheel. Okay. And you could get into a car accident. Okay. Or if you take an Uber, just watch how they drive and so forth. So those are just some examples there. What else is the sun doing here? The sun is squaring vertex. Okay, so vertex is, it's about like faded situations, faded events, faded themes, things that are faded and that are meant to be, right? But it's in a challenging square. Okay, so what you maybe perceive that is meant to be, it is not. Okay, and I mean, that is just the truth that it is. Something's going to be highlighting that you will understand that it was not meant to be, right? It could be maybe you go into a position for a work and it didn't work out. You didn't make it to the location for some reason. Maybe you got into a car accident or something. And I say that because that happened to me before. I was going to a job interview at the airport, and that's when I got into my car accident. And so that prevented from me to going to LAX for a job interview many, many years ago. And so that's just an example there. Okay, something that you thought was meant to be didn't happen for some reason, and maybe it was God divine intervention. That something worse could have happened or something, right? The sun is also trining Pallas. So Pallas is about strategy. Okay, so it is about strategizing with the sun. Okay, so maybe going out in nature, going out to the beach, going out to the park, going out where there's just a lot of sun, traveling and so forth. And that can help you to strategize, maybe come up with an idea for work, for your relationships, for your love life, for your happy life, anything that you are trying to strategize. Okay, let me look at Palace here. Um, Palace. Hang on. Okay, it is in Aries and it is conjuncting Saturn. Okay, so Saturn and Palace are coming together in the sign of Aries. And where we have Palace here is in the seventh house of relationships. So this pertains to relationships, okay? This pertains to, you want to strategize when it comes to your relationships, your contracts, the people you work with. This could also be your marriage. Maybe your marriage is not the best right now and you're trying to work it out. You're trying to find a strategy of how to bring back your love life. maybe how to get along more with your relationship, how to have better communication and all of that. And that is coming together with Saturn, with discipline, with putting in the work, the necessary work that it takes. Okay. Um, so that the sun is getting along, maybe something's going to be highlighted about your relationship and how you can improve your relationship. Okay. Um, and so I did talk about the sun coming together with fama, with fame. Also, the sun for those that are drinkers. It is making opportunity with beer. Okay, those that are beer brands and so forth. They have ability to market themselves when it comes to marketing. Uh, the sun also is conjuncting gold, so this one's powerful. Okay, especially because I was talking about Mexico, about the pyramids and so forth. And I'm not saying that there's gold in there. You know what I mean? But the sun coming together with gold, there might be some gold that's discovered. I don't know. I don't think these were the days of the gold rush, but if you really think about it, with Aquarius in there and then Leo and so forth, and uh, Taurus, we do have Taurus in Chiron. Taurus does rule gold as well. So there is something about the sun that is being highlighted when with gold. Okay, so you might come into gold. Something that you feel that's valuable, right? It might not be gold bars. It might be you might want to wear more gold. Maybe you might want to color your hair a little bit more brighter, more like Goldilocks, or maybe more blonde or something. I know, like for me, I have to do my hair, and um, for me, I love my color of my hair because it makes my face stand out more. And because of the astrology, I can't be a brunette because it flushes my face. So and I was thinking about that today. I don't know, for some reason, I was thinking of just you know because it's time to do a touch up. And I don't know, I was just thinking about my hair. And I was like, I love the hair color. I like how it shines in the sun, how it just shines, and because I am a Taurus rising, um, and I also have Saturn on my first. So Saturn can make you like flush, like, you know, um, kind of not be able to, for you to be seen, and that's why I have to be blonde, or I have to be like a light brown, or like gold streaks or something, in order for me to stand out. Or else, like and anyways, with brown hair or like dark hair, um, I actually look intimidating. I do, and I have to wear like a lot of makeup to stand out. So I don't like that. I don't. And with like light color, I don't even have to wear a lot of makeup. So um, I don't know. It's just for me personally, I love my color. I will never, never go brown. Or dark brown, or dark hair. I will never go. No, it doesn't fit my face at all. So anyway, the sun. I do have to say it is conjuncting those that are into Israel. Um, there's an asteroid called Israel that is conjuncting the sun. Okay, it's so interesting because it's also conjuncting in my chart. I also have Israel and Leo. But what's transiting right now for the collective, this Israel asteroid is in Leo and is coming together with the sun. So I feel something prophetic is going to happen, maybe with Israel, something with God. Okay, pay attention to things like that. Um, let's see. I do have to say that the sun is squaring banks. Okay. So for those that are bankers, for those that are banking, or making mortgage payments, just watch out for your bank statements. Just look at how much you have, how much you're saving, what's coming out and coming in. Um, because let me see where it is at 18 degrees. It is at 18 degrees in the sign of Taurus. Okay. So that's important because that's where the banks are. Okay. So 18 degrees is a degree of Virgo. Okay. Very analytical and so forth. In the sign of Taurus, though. And what I think is that it might be a little bit more about requirements and so forth. There's this challenge here with the sun. Okay, this eclipse that's happening, it might affect banks. Okay, and where it is, it's in the eighth house of payouts. It's in the eighth house of joint finances. It's in the motto is we have. That's the eighth house. Okay. It has to do with legacies and trusts and wills and taxes, insurance matters, inheritance, money, all of that. You know, an example that could be, okay, it could be that someone does pass away. And let's say that person passed away and didn't include you in a will or something like that. And you're trying to collect some money, and they say, I'm sorry, we can't release any information. You're not on the will, right? So then that could be problematic because you thought you were on the will and apparently you're not. So that money cannot be released to you. So now there's a problem, right? That could just be an example. Another example, it could be that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to um, take money out from the bank, okay, in case somebody has passed away in your family or so forth, and you it cannot be released, or some money cannot be released, okay, or this is siphoning energies too, maybe you want to siphon out of a Taurus, you know, out of a Taurus Virgo, and you're not able to, okay, and so you're not able to cheat out a Taurus Virgo, or it could be something pertaining to real estate. Okay, it could be very dramatic here. Okay, very dramatic, um, especially because this solar eclipse in Leo, um, it has the South Node in conjunction with this eclipse. So the South Node has to do with ancestors. It has to do with ancestry in retrograde. So when we look at the South Node, that all has to do with ancestors. And this eclipse, the solar eclipse, is coming together with it. Okay, it's holding hands with the past, with ancestors, right? And there could be some drama there between like Leo ancestors and Taurus ancestors, something about payouts and inheritance and so forth. So and the bank will not release any money. And said, I'm sorry, what's the password? You don't have the password. I can't release any information. I can't release any money to you or your family. So it could be something to do with that. So, do have good communication with your family and make sure you are on that will. And if you're not on that will, well, you can't claim that money. It could be something to do with insurances as well. Okay, it just like I said, it's taxes, insurances, mortgages, the IRS, all of that has pertaining to the eighth house. It can get very dramatic, okay, but very spiritual as well. Um, and I do have to say also the sun is squaring Wage. Okay, there's this asteroid here called Wage, and it has to do with earned income, with your compensation, financial issues. It has to do with it has to do based on your earnings that you do at your work, and it represents how you are also valued in the workplace. Okay, any disputes regarding pay and so forth. That all has to do with this asteroid called wage. And it is challenging the sun. Okay. So there might be another example that could be, it might be that you found another job, right? And you're leaving your old job and you're asking for a severance pay, or the final package pay. And they're like, well, we're only going to give you your last paycheck. We're not going to give you everything that, you know, because you broke the contract, right? And so you're just going to leave like that. You're not even giving a 2 weeks notice or something like that. So we're not going to pay you the whole complete package. So that could be an example there with Sun Square Wage, where you were expecting the wages to be paid. And now it turns out that they're not going to pay you because, you know, you were not loyal, and, you know, loyal is the word fidelity. Loyalty was for the I'm not the asteroid, the Sabian symbol of 20 degrees, right? They didn't consider you to be loyal in the company, and you're just leaving like that. So they're, they don't have the right to give you. Yeah, I'm hearing the word entitlement, that there's a lot of entitlement. Oh, I bet. So where this asteroid of wages, it's at 23 degrees of Aquarius, and it has to do with innovation, and it's in the sign of Scorpio. Okay, so it's also in the second house of money, your paycheck. Okay, the money you earn. And so this eclipse in Leo is challenging this asteroid of wage that has to do with innovation. It has to do with wealth in the second house, in the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpios like to get paid. Okay, Scorpios will take you to court. Scorpios will fight you. Scorpios will probably even do some little black magic there. You know what I mean? To get their money, paid. They'll do whatever it takes. Um, so, or maybe some revenge. Who knows? But it's something. I mean, it's not funny, but things like that happen. People go postal, and things can happen like that if they don't get paid. But there's a challenge there, and where the sun is it's in the 11th house of circles. So these are these circles that don't want to pay you. They don't want to pay you. They don't believe that they have to pay you. Okay, and you believe that you put in the work and you should get paid, in the second house of Scorpio. So there's going to be this duking out here. Okay, there might be even court. You might have to go to court or something like that. um so that is what we have. It's going to be interesting because this is going to affect the global, just international, because this has to do with money. This has to do with markets, money markets. It has to do with banks. It's challenging the banks. Okay. Um, and so, but you could get famous. Okay. Put in the work and you could get famous as a podcaster, as a blogger, um, as a YouTuber, anything in social media platforms. There is the ability to get famous, especially building culture in the 11th house, and having people support you, and, just help you out, donations and so forth, help you to raise your numbers, help you to grow culture, and so forth, through friends and so forth, and groups and societies and platforms and so forth. Um, so that is what is going on with this eclipse here, and like I said, there could be some fear happening. So don't listen to everything that is being said in social media, because a lot of it is all lies. Okay. And, but I mean, the earthquake that happened with Colombia, we know that was real. Okay. We know that was real, and so forth. And I like to share maps in social media just to confirm about earthquakes and things that are going on. And I'm going to be doing more of that. It's just, this whole sore throat really, messed me up. And I just had to do a lot of self care. And, I'm just hopping back in now, because I do love podcasting. I do love talking about the astro weather and teaching people about what to look for, and I like, this eclipse, this solar eclipse, this new beginning, opportunities, are going to happen and so forth, but also endings are going to happen as well. Okay. And even deaths. Okay. For those that, are going through cycles, for those that, can continue on more in this world. So be prepared for that, you know. Um, and, you know, that's all I can say about that. But there is plenty of protection with that trine in Saturn. Okay. There's protection there. Um, and yeah, so there's major change that's going to happen with money, with banks, um, and leadership. A lot of people are going to be, having new positions as well, changing jobs, um, getting maybe a higher position, a higher pace, maybe somewhere else, or something like that. Okay. So that's what we have right now. If you did like the episode, do share, do like, do do hit the like button, do subscribe, and when you subscribe, you get notifications without me having to post on Facebook or on X or on Instagram. And when you do subscribe, you just get notifications right away. And the download is free. Okay, it's free. You could download it and in your app, in your Apple app, and or iOS, I think. But it is free, and you could look at other podcasters as well. A lot of great podcasters as well in Podbean. But when you do have the app, right away you'll know when I'm posting, an episode and so forth. You just follow me, and you'll get notification right away. You know, and it's a really great app. I like it. I also have some added podcasters on there, and every time, when they're posting an episode, I get a notification right away. So anyway, that is, the pros of subscribing for free, and you never miss an episode, and know what the frequencies are, know what the energies are, so you can make better decisions, become a wise decision maker. I don't know. I'm hearing investors. I'm hearing investors. Um, and so make become a wise decision maker when it comes to these frequencies. Okay. And so I wish everybody the best, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Goodbye.